Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. Today we want to talk about dimensions. We were actually talking about some experience on one of the episodes before, and I remember I said something about dimensions, and then you're like, oh, look, we have to do an episode about dimensions. So here we are.
Yeah.
Doing an episode
here
about
we
dimensions.
are.
Yeah.
We talked, like you said, we talked about dimensions in different episodes, but I think this is going to be a deeper and more varied and vast episode about dimensions in the universe.
It's funny because when I first started with the Akashic Records and learning about the spiritual world and all that stuff, I think they give us, we know this, but they give us information that we're prepared to understand. Like if you can't understand more, you can't understand more. And when I first began, they always divided the dimensions for me in 12. So to me, 12 was like the maximum. And then I started learning more about the universe, and it started they started breaking those 12 down. It's like they made just 12 big chunks for me. And this is why you have to know about these chunks. And then they kind of expanded it. So now that I'm learning more about the universe and I'm understanding the structures of how things function, it's almost like now I'm prepared to understand it more.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
There's a lot going on. All right. So we know that us humans, currently we're supposedly in 3D, third dimension. So you'll hear people say 3D, 4D, 5D, that's dimension. The D's for dimension. So in case no one knew that or they're wondering, so that's dimension. You've also heard us talk about the fact that humans are ascending to fifth dimension. Again, not everyone. The souls that did sign up for the shift, those souls will slowly for the next few years be shifting into fifth dimension. But what comes before that? So the first dimension is going to be the dimension of rocks, minerals and, things like those structures, right? So it's the consciousness, there's going to be, from what I understand, it's more than one consciousness can be in one big, let's say there's big massive rock. That big massive rock's not going to have one consciousness. It's going to have a few consciousness. And they can incarnate in that for hundreds of years. It's not going to be humans live currently 90 years, right? In a
Give
good
or take.
Yeah, in a good lifetime.
Yeah.
But
I think it's 80 something's the expected.
Okay,
age, right?
I'm pushing it then.
I think, I don't know, I could be off here.
But when the souls begin their process and they come all the way down to the bottom to begin, what we're doing is we're learning from imperfection. And the souls begin the process of learning from perfection. They cannot start in a human body because it's too much. They need to slowly get there. So they prepare via going first to the first dimension, which is the most dense that we currently have, because there could be more denser in the future because they're constantly creating new structures, which is why in the beginning I'm told 12 chunks, and then I'm being told, oh, well, actually it's this much chunks, but also we're constantly creating more chunks. So everything's constantly evolving and changing. But currently the densest we have is going to be the mineral world. Right now, today, is the mineral world, which is those rock formations. Consciousness stays in there, and for hundreds of years, till it evolves to a point where it leaves that rock structure, that mineral structure. The next process would be going into a plant. So that's second dimension. So it's going to be the plant in your living room. It's going to be the plant outside. It's going to be, things like that. It's going to be in a vegetable I guess you call it a vegetable. Like, not, would you call it vegetable?
Like,
No.
there's like flora
Vegetation.
and fauna, right?
Vegetation's the word I meant. Yes, vegetation. So it'd be, flora, fauna, vegetation, right? That's the second dimension. And then we talked about this once on the podcast, I think it was. I don't know if it was on the podcast or the Patreon, but we talked about this before where they begin, the next process is actually going to be when you get to the second, then they can move into animals. After vegetation, they can move into animals. But not every animal, so they have to do quite a few different kinds of animals usually. It depends on each soul, of course, but the majority, what the path they do is they do quite a few animals, and then they do the last bit before becoming humans. The last bit is going to be a more advanced animal, I guess you could say. So the Akashic Records had said that it was horses, dogs, and cats. Those were the preferred, and the majority of the souls picked to be one of those before being human. And so
I that's interesting, because I always find like those, in general animals, but there's certain animals that we experience today in this life that are really here to open us up. And I feel like those animals really are there for that. There's others that might be an exception, but
supposedly, like, these animals, so people that have horses, like, the majority of the horses have owners. It's not like wild horses all the time. And the majority of the dogs have owners. The majority of cats have owners. Those are the animals that have owners that are preparing to be human. So their direct interaction and relationship with humans is preparing them to, they're like overseeing your life. They're part of your life with you, but they're overseeing it, and they're learning by watching you.
Yep.
And then their soul, when is prepared, maybe there are 3 dogs in a row. Maybe it's not just one dog and then it's done, right? It depends on the soul and how long it takes to progress. But let's say that it's a dog, the soul's in a dog body, and it's going through the experience and has an owner and all that stuff. And it comes out of that lifetime, and it's prepared when it comes down, it's going to be human for the first time. Right? Mm-hmm. That's 3D then. Then we're jumping into 3D when we become human. And then we have the 4th dimension, which souls do go to the 4th dimension, but we're not in bodies. In the 4th dimension, that's where you'll find, for example, the spirits and the ghosts and all those things. So when someone passes away and can't move on, if the individual cannot move on, it stays in this astral area, but vibrating in the 4th dimension, which is why we can't see it. So it's actually still stuck in this, like, a soul that can't move on will continue to stay in the 4th dimension. It cannot move up from the 4th dimension until it can move on from whatever's keeping it there, but it's in our astral plane. So it could be walking around your house, right?
Yeah.
But it's in 4th dimension. Now, I can't see it. Some people can. Some people mediums have the ability to see it, of course. But most people cannot, or not aware of it. And it's living its reality in 4th dimension. That individual soul is living its reality in 4th dimension. And we're living ours over here in 3rd, and we're kind of sharing space in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4th. And then we have 5th, which we know all about.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that.
all the time, which for 2 reasons is that's where the Akasha information is stored in a 5th dimensional library. And at the same time, a lot of humans are going to be doing the move to the 5th dimension from the 3rd, where we're currently kind of beginning and going through. Right?
Yep.
But it's not like we're going to be like no body. We're going to have a body. We're just going to be vibrating with the frequency that's the frequency of 5th dimension. So I think that's a part a lot of people get confused, because they think, oh, if we're going to 5th, we're just dropping. Also,
isn't it more like we're tuning to that energy than going into the 5th dimension? Because we're still going to be in 3D, but we're connected to the 5th dimensional energy.
I have like this. Sorry, this.
I can see it from here.
Can you see
I'm like looking at you.
I can't tell if
it's
it's
a mosquito.
It's on the microphone. You can probably hear it. So, it's 5th dimension. It is still 5th dimension, but also every dimension has levels. So like you have, us, when we connect to the Akashic Records, we bring our energy up, and the Akashic Records comes down to meet us halfway, and we're going to the higher part of the fourth, and they're coming down from the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's levels. At the same time, there's levels to each dimension. So we're not going to be in the most when us humans begin our fifth dimensional reality shift. We're going to be in the lowest part of the fifth dimension. We're not going to go all the way up. So we're just tapping into the beginning of it. We have to continue to progress into it. Also, the plan for the humanity is actually to go to seventh.
Mm-hmm.
And Gaia has the capability to vibrate up into ninth dimension. Gaia being like Earth, right? It can vibrate all the way to ninth dimension. Now the Lemurians, so we have the Atlantean, everyone like who kind of knows the history of the Lemurians, Atlanteans. We had the Lemurians, and then after the Lemurians came the Atlanteans. The Lemurians had actually made it to ninth dimension.
Wow.
And then that ninth dimension all started falling down into what was the fall of Atlantis, which made its way into the third that gave way to our experience.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So we have the capabilities on Earth. Earth has the capability of sustaining up to ninth dimension, but we can't do it if she's not there. So she's already past fourth. She's already in fifth now. I think I was talking about this like last year when she had just I had just heard that she was in fourth. Now she's in fifth. And you can see you're standing on Earth. You're standing on the ground. So she's still tangible to you. It's still there. So and this is what I want to break down the dimensions. I think when we think about dimensions, and this was happening to me, and I recently just started accepting this. This is like, I also find it really hard to understand this and like accept it, right?
Yeah.
The material world, the tangible material world exists all the way up until the 36th dimension.
Wow.
36. Now, the more up you go, the more smoky or liquidy it gets, or whatever you want to call it. Like,
thicker.
You know what I mean?
Or what?
Like it's less. It's like more.
Like more
subtle,
less tangible.
What's a word?
Sticky?
What's the word? Sutil in Spanish. What's the word in English?
Oh, subtle. More subtle.
So it becomes less and less subtle. Or more subtle. More subtle. More and more. more. Sorry, guys. Okay, it becomes the more higher up dimension you get, the body forms that we carry become more and more subtle. Mm-hmm. Right? What happens is the soul still continues in the lower dimensions. The soul needs a box to put itself in. This box is the human body, right? So when you're saying that we're raising the frequency, we're raising to fifth dimension, the soul's the same. It's the box that it's living in that's going to become more subtle.
Nice, okay.
So we're not going to become transparent. We're not going to become ghosts. We're just becoming more subtle. Our bodies are becoming more subtle.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 36th dimension up, that's... let me think about it for the words. Wait, I'm going to use antimatter.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing that I always thought was we always here on Earth we say, oh, the light and the dark, right? The good and the bad, right? And for us, the light is light and love and good, and the dark is bad and evil, and it's like don't go there, right? But actually, antimatter is actually dark. And the reason that is because the molecules are so close together that there's no space for light to go through it. And our molecules are more separated, so we have more light.
So interesting. So this is all stuff that you're translating in your own way from what you're learning, right?
Yeah, this is what I've been learning. And so I thought, since I had experience where I was also not understanding dimensions, and I've recently started understanding them, I'm still in my path of accepting it, guys. I'm still going like, what? I have to accept this? Or like, I'm still on my path.
When you say 36 dimensions, like I have my Akashic records open. I don't get a no. I just think that it might be too much for our brain to comprehend. And maybe that's why, in general, like you said, people speak about 12 dimensions.
Our soul isn't in 36. Our creator is in 36.
Yeah.
The creator of our universe. Then there's more above that. It goes all the way to the 80th dimension. But our creator, that's lowest, that every universe has an energy source that helps administer and helps everything function. And those beings they're so high frequency they cannot come down to the less subtle forms that we're in, right? So they're managing everything from up there, and they have their commanders and their team members. They have a whole team going on. Everything's perfectly, or it's incredible. Everything's perfectly organized. So then you'll have members like Archangel Michael that everybody loves, right?
I love him.
That being can come down pretty low and assist us. And actually, archangels and angels, which I love working with, as we know, they're actually created, and their job is to work with humanity specifically on Earth, right? So everything's in its own dimension, its own place, and when it ascends, it changes its mission or its purpose, or it changes what it's going to do because now it advanced and it can work with this more. But what I find really interesting is that when we die, we go to the 5th dimension, from what I understand. And we do our life review thing, right? And 2 things can happen. The soul can decide to reincarnate, or it expands and moves on. And if it decides to reincarnate, it has to wait to come back. And for it to wait to come back, it waits above above the 5th dimension. So if I'm not mistaken, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th, 6th and 7th and 8th, I think. I'm not really sure about the 8th, but 6th and 7th I know. It waits. So let's say that it's going to wait, 100 years. It's going to study something. It's going to do something. Because souls actually do things. We don't just sit around and go,
yeah.
Hey. Yeah. And then when it's ready.
Can people, because the feeling I get is people can decide to reincarnate pretty quickly too.
Yeah. I think there's, if there's a lot of trauma.
Circumstances.
Yeah. If there's a lot of trauma, a lot of souls are going to get stuck in the 4th, like we were talking about just now. And that is we have linear time for us here. But for those ghosts in the 4th dimension, there is no linear time. For us, it could be a snap of a finger for them, and for us, it could be 100, 150 years.
Right. Or could it be backwards too, though? You know what I mean? For us, it could have felt like it was 2 years, but for them, it could have felt like 100. Or is it backwards? I feel like it go both ways. I don't know. I have this feeling.
I think that I guess that's a hard question, because I guess you'd have to ask the soul, right? That's a hard question, yeah. You'd have to ask the soul. Some souls might be in complete and utter torture, and maybe it feels like forever. Maybe I guess so. Yeah. But linear time speaking, what could be 100 years for us could be nothing for them.
Oh yeah, that for sure. But I was just wondering if it could be backwards, because I have had readings where I felt that somebody asked about a loved one and felt it's not their time to come back yet because they had passed, right? And other times I'm they feel like they're going to incarnate sooner than later.
There's some that come really fast. Remember the book I read? Children who have lived lives before. These children.
Yeah, maybe it's because they have something they need to accomplish, or maybe it's lessons that weren't accomplished, so that maybe they have more of a reason to come back quicker.
Yeah, it could be.
That's the feeling I get.
Yeah. And I also think some souls come back to help prove the reincarnation thing as well. I think that's a kind of some of them might do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And these cases are confirmed because they were born so quickly that the family members of the last life are all alive and all remember that death because it was so recently.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And they're also easily found because they're born in towns, in the same town or nearby towns, which not every soul does either.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so it's super interesting. Wait, so what was I getting to? So our creator fluctuates between 36 and 40, if I understand correctly. I think he's usually, I say he, there is no he and she, but just comfortable to say that. The source that helps us with everything, it's in 36. And then it can go all the way to the 80, but then after that, it's antimatter.
Yeah.
It's antimatter, but it's frequency and it's energy. And it still exists and it's still contracting and expanding, because everything in the universe contracts and expands. I had that whole aha. I think I talked about it on the podcast. Like, one day I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, contraction, everything. Like, we breathe in and out, contraction, expanding. Even Gaia, our like Earth, contracts and expands constantly. Our universe, like everything, our galaxy, the creators, everything's contracting and expanding all the time.
True.
Isn't that cool? And birth. Think about birth.
Cool realization.
The contractions that women have, it contracts and then it stops.
Yes.
And then it contracts.
Birth. Oh my gosh, Lucia. Mind blown. Totally.
This is funny because I spoke to a Patreon member the other day who also got this through like an experience she had, but she perceived it as waves. And I said, yeah, you're talking about the contracting expanding. She's like, it's waves. Everything's waves, right? I was like, yeah, you're talking about the contracting expanding. I was like, I had that aha too. If something stops contracting expanding, there's no life in it. So the soul as well. The soul has to constantly contract and expand as well, even when it's not in a body. So if it stops doing that, it stops existing.
Yeah. That's I'm with the records open, so aligned.
Isn't that so cool though?
So much like that. Yeah. And the fact that we can visualize that too, because I think many of us might be visual, right? So being able to visualize that, but in an energetic sense, it's alignment. And like when I think about like myself, right? And I think about myself in life and how when I'm in the contracted state, I'm not flowing. I'm not moving forward. I feel maybe stuck. But when I'm in expansion, I'm in trust. I'm in openness. I'm in flowing. I'm in connection. It's the same thing. You can look at it that way, and realizing that we always have to be in that flow and that life isn't linear. Healing isn't linear. There's going to be a path. That's the onion layers way we talk about. It's the same thing energetically. Yeah.
But also, when you were saying like when I'm expanding, right? When you're contracting, usually you can consider that crises, and crises is needed because crises will help us break from our comfort zone. It's going to help us break out of that. We're going to become a more aligned person probably from the experience. So then that's when the expansion happens. The crisis happens, contraction, and then it opens back up again, and you succeed yourself. You come out of your comfort zone. You surpass yourself, right?
Yeah, and realizing we were just recorded a Patreon episode for the month, and we were talking about Joe Dispenza and some stuff that Lou's working on, and we talk about the creator energy, right? How we're all here as creators, and we can't be creating from that contracted state. We have to be creating from the expansion state of seeing beyond actually believing beyond what we can see, opening up to possibilities.
Yep. I mean,
that's what it is.
But even the Big Bang, it was
explosion, expansion.
It was an explosion, was an expansion, and then things supposedly cooled down, and then it started coming together, contraction, and then expanded again, and then it contracted again until it created planets and stars and suns, and Yeah, so even the creation of the basis of where we're living was the only way it could have been created was through the life cycle of expansion and creation.
And that is the only way to live. So we have to stop fighting.
Yeah.
That back and forth. It's flow with it.
Think about this. This is my favorite part. When we're born, what's the first thing the baby has to do? Take that breath. The doctors are always, you have to get the baby to react and breathe. It's expansion. The baby was just born. It inhaled, it breathed. Okay, it has life. And when we die,
it's in this very close, very closed space to all of a sudden being in this very open space, right?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, the mother's womb and then boom, out. Mm-hmm. And then when we die, I haven't watched someone pass in front of me, but you'll hear people say, he took his last breath. Out.
Yeah.
The contraction. We came in with a big breath.
But even in a physical sense, if we look at it, right? We grow, we expand, and then we tend to shrink when we grow older, right?
Like you become older, you get like, you crouch down.
Yeah, so you're it's like that cycle. Even when we're growing, we're a fetus, grow, and then you come back down in some way.
Yeah, you have cycles.
And obviously that's not everybody's cycle. Some people don't make it to an old age. That's why I was trying to change my mindset about like getting older. Sometimes it's that social thing of like, oh, you're getting old, you have gray hairs, this and that. It's like, it's a privilege to get older and to be healthy.
That means you're still here.
It's huge. Yeah. And they're still living this life and learning things with opportunities of creation.
But also, are you older and healthy? My God, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Like,
of course, that's what I'm saying.
Be thankful for that. Like, not only do you have the privilege of seeing what it's like to grow gray hair, but like you're doing it and you're not dying, you're healthy. Right?
And you start to understand yourself more. You start to know how you tick.
I would not go back to being 20. No.
Oh gosh, no way.
I remember the feelings of feeling uncomfortable, not knowing who I was. I think the beginning of the 20s, I was still angry at the world. Like, no, I'll take 40.
Yeah, but I think people are waking up earlier now.
Yeah,
like,
our era.
Things have changed. Yeah. So I think what we went through I would say even into my 30s, definitely. Yeah, there's been, and everybody's process is different. So we're just generalizing here and telling kind of our story. But like, yeah, my 20s were frickin' difficult. Very difficult, yeah. In an emotional sense, my panic attacks, my depression, all the change, very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't easy. But I do agree that the newer generations have a different kind of way of dealing with stuff. They have a different reality. It's so quickly everything changed, Like, I remember when we moved to Uruguay from New York, we were writing letters. Like, that was the only way to communicate with our friends back in New York. We had to write letters to them.
It would take weeks.
I remember trying to calculate how long it took to see how long it would take for her to get it. Like, I would write to Tiffany, how long it would take for Tiffany to get it, and then how long it would take for her to write it and send it back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And now it's like you just, hey, let's get on a Skype call. Let's get on a Zoom call. Let's get on let's like WhatsApp each other. You send an audio. Yeah. Like, right? When mom and dad, do you remember when mom and dad got married?
Yeah.
Mom and dad, our parents got married, and dad was in Venezuela, and mom was in Uruguay, and they had to get married through, via distance, and then dad found out he was married when he got a telegram. Mm-hmm. The telegram received said, by the way, just to let you know, yeah, you're married now.
So crazy.
So crazy. Like, now you'll just do it like I don't know.
But I think that's to also bring a little bit of compassion to the older generation of like, they've seen it all.
Oh my God. They've seen all the processes. Yeah.
We've seen a lot, but they've seen it all.
And they've had to accept them.
Yep.
And some of those acceptances might have been real hard.
Totally.
Yeah. I used to think about like the era of people that would back like the Titanic era. Like, you would get on a boat to migrate somewhere. You don't know if the boat was going to make it. And the people you left behind, you'll probably never see them or talk to them ever again.
Yeah.
Just imagine, like, nowadays you say, oh, I'm moving abroad. Yeah. Easy. Yeah. I'll give you a call when I arrive and my airplane lands 14 hours later, dude. Like, it's all good.
There's like internet on airplanes now. Like, you can just message while you're flying.
Yeah, totally. And then like before it was like, oh, I'm moving from England to New York. Goodbye. I'll never see or talk to you ever again in my life. Like, I hope you have a good one. Right.
It's
things
insane,
have changed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got to that from contracting and expanding, but
I don't know.
A bit of a tangent there.
Anyway, yeah.
So the dimensions things for me is really interesting. And then the other thing is, so you have like the I don't know, call it the holding stage, where the soul's like, oh, I think I'm gonna maybe go down. Yeah, I'm probably gonna reincarnate. Let me wait up here above the fifth, right? But then you have, if you think about it, then you have all these other planets, right? I mean, it's funny because like even our progress on the podcast, remember when we first went, do you think they're aliens? And now we're like, yeah, they're definitely aliens, and they're on this dimension and that dimension and that planet and that planet. Like now it's just like a known. When we first began the podcast, we were like, hey, Christos, do you think there's aliens?
He's like, of course. I've like had interactions with them. I've talked to them. I'm like,
look at the time. What? Always look at the time.
No, but then all the news that came out too of like what they were hiding. Like there's just, yeah. We said it was a moment of truth. We're finding out the reality of what's actually happening.
My favorite thing to find out was Project Serpos. Oh, I heard about Project Serpos. I'm like, what? Everybody that's already been a listener will know this. Those that are new, you'll find out that I'm obsessed with this show on Gaia, which is called Cosmic Disclosure. And every season they have one guest who speaks about their experiences, whether it's in the military and working on other planets or working with other races. And one of those seasons, I forgot this guy's, Randy Kramer. It was the season with Randy Kramer, and he has some crazy stories. And one of those, was it Randy Kramer? Oh no, Richard Doty. It was Richard Doty. Richard Doty talks about, he works in the area of like around Area 51, kind of around there. I think it's Nevada and stuff around there, like close to Roswell, where all that happened. So he talks about how his time working there, and Richard Doty talks about a project that was called Project Serpos, where the American military sent people to another planet. I don't remember now the name. I would have to rewatch that. But they lived there for a few years.
What?
Yes. They lived there for a few years. It was all in the documentation that he talks about.
My gosh.
Of course, we're assuming that this guy is legit. We're assuming this guy is telling the truth. We're assuming, right? And he's talking about how he saw the documentation and he saw that they sent people. He's not sure if the people they sent were 3 or 12. That's the part of the documentation that's not, seems to be very clarified. And some of those people didn't want to come back. They wanted to stay there. Why? I wouldn't come back either. I mean, if it's a good planet, why not stay there?
It's cool there, right? Yeah. It's probably less BS.
Yeah. So that's called Project Serpos. People. I wonder if you Google if it shows up on. Let me look that up.
We'll look it up. If we can find any like links, maybe like.
If I can share a link where he talks about it, I will do that. Sometimes Gaia lets you share. And I
that's
will
true, but
share
not all
the link.
The episodes.
Yeah. Sometimes there's shows that they won't let you, so I have to see if I can share that. But when that was the first time I said, "There's this whole other world I don't know about. What the hell is going on?" So all these other
I never heard that.
Project Serpos? No, there's so many experiments that were done that now the documentation is coming out and a lot of people are talking about, like Project Montauk. I don't know what other ones, like I forgot the name, like where they made a whole ship disappear. They changed the dimension of the whole ship and everyone on it on purpose. Never seen again. The ship and the people never seen again. Was that Project Montauk?
So I guess that show Manifest isn't so crazy then. The one on Netflix?
No, but you don't know why it happened yet.
No, I haven't watched it, but I know the idea of it.
So the airplane took off. It's more of a time.
No spoiler alerts though.
No, because you learn about this in the beginning of the show.
Okay.
The airplane takes off and they land 5 years later, and their family members thought they were all dead. But that's it. It's time. It's a time thing, right? It's like a time warp or something.
But maybe there's something more to it that they're not talking about.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Or maybe they were experimented on like that ship, and it was like
exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, Project Montauk 2.0.
Yeah.
Let me Google to see if it's called Project Montauk. Project. Google's like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. There's a book apparently about it or something like that. Book by Preston Nichols. I don't know. Okay, so there's a book about it even. There you go, guys. There's a lot of insane stuff that, like, I learned about from Cosmic Disclosure. I'm like, what? Like, it's insane. It's insane. So then we have all these other planets, and they vibrate in their dimension.
Yeah.
So, like, I had learned originally about my soul's connection with the Arcturians through V that was on the podcast once, and she's like, "Oh, there's something with an Arcturian," and then I dove into that, and I ended up finding out that I'm actually very linked. My soul's very linked to Arcturus, which then became my connection with, you know, the messages I get from there and stuff like that. But they can vibrate, if I'm not mistaken, they vibrate between 7th and 9th.
Mm-hmm. I think you've said that before. Yeah.
So they seem to vibrate 7th and 9th. And then you have, like, the Pleiades, which a lot of people talk about the Pleiadians, right? The Pleiades, I think they can make it to 12. I think they vibrate up into 12, if I'm not mistaken. Some will vibrate in 8, 9, I believe. Don't quote me on it, but I believe they can make it to 12. Sorry. But you have all these planets that vibrate differently, and their bodies are tangible. That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us are like, how is this going to work? How are we going to go to the 5th dimension and still have our bodies? Now, I think the important thing for us to clarify here is, from what I understand, is this is the first time in our universal history, and I think all the universes actually, but our universal history, that the ascension is going to happen without death. So everyone's watching.
So in the past, how was that?
Yeah, you die. You had to die. You would live
to ascend.
Yeah, to ascend. Oh. You would have to die to go to the next. This is the first time ever we're like, I mean, a negative way of saying that is we're guinea pigs, but actually our soul signed up for this experiment because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to try to do this, to use our bodies and bring it up with us instead of dropping it and leaving.
Wow.
So the entire universe is watching to see how we do it and how it goes. Can you imagine if it goes wrong?
The show is on. Oh, gosh.
Can you imagine if, like, it goes wrong and we're all up there going, oh, man, I really thought it was going to work this time.
I think it's going to be fine, but...
Yes, I do, too.
I feel positive about it.
I'm just
but it's not easy.
No,
I mean,
it's not easy.
This is why we're going through everything we're going through.
There is a form of death. It's the death of the old body. But we're keeping our, like, Lucia's body is going to be here. It's just going to change its structure in some sort of a way. It's like in a way where we can't fully grasp it while it's happening, but we can feel it.
Yeah, that's what my spiritual team's saying. It's like a death rebirth in the spiritual sense. And that's never easy. But that also requires us to, because what they're saying to me is when we pass away and our soul leaves our body, we can bring with us our lessons, but in this case, we need to learn those lessons here. So this is why we're being pushed to learn and get rid of things, to reprogram, to create. And it doesn't feel easy for a lot of us because there's a lot of crap. And not only that, the whole system's collapsing so that it can vibrate with the new energy. So it's so many things playing at the same time that I'm not surprised we all feel so overwhelmed at moments.
Yeah. And then we can go back to the contraction expansion thing. Your body is it's getting pressure on it because we're receiving the frequencies, and it's like it hurts, right? It's a contraction. Yeah. And then when we finally change the structure, we can start expanding, then expansion, things get lighter, right?
Yeah. That's interesting because we just actually did a whole over an hour long episode on the Patreon all about ascension. We went pretty deep into that, especially with some of the stuff Lou's learning. We channeled a bit. So if you guys are interested in this kind of information, Lou specifically is talking a lot about this on the Patreon. So make sure you check that out if you're interested in joining.
And if you want to hear me talk about poop as well. Because that episode I ended up talking about poop.
Yep. We talk about a lot of stuff there.
No, yeah. And also, so many people write me like, I don't know what the Patreon is. So it's a platform. Yeah,
maybe explain it.
Yeah. This is a platform where we're putting more episodes up, but also we can speak more. Like, so if you want to understand more or want to get more information or ready for that, then we have this other platform where it's literally the price of a coffee per month. It's nothing. Like, it's just, you went to Starbucks and actually these days it's cheaper than coffee.
I think so. Yeah. I was going to say
like
that.
Starbucks is, I don't know how it's getting high here in Holland, but, it's like the price of a coffee in a month, and you're getting an episode we're doing together, and then each of us are doing one apart. And then on top of that, I'm so grateful that the community is growing. So we have like more people coming in, and then we have our Telegram group where we're all talking to each other and even like asking each other like advice and supporting each other. And it's become,
yeah, we started doing like share posts where we can all tell each other like if we're offering services, so we can all be of assistance to each other. And share our projects, but also, I think it's this idea of like creating a safe community. I think that's the most important thing, of like where we all support each other, we're all there for each other. We can,
for me, it feels,
give each other advice. It feels super safe.
Yeah. Like I mean, we already are open in the podcast, but I open up more though, to the point where I talk about poop, guys.
No, way deeper than that, but yeah.
I know, I'm kidding. I'm being funny.
But yeah, just to get an idea, because I didn't know what Patreon was a few years ago either.
I didn't either. I was like, what is this?
It's a website. So some people have this on their own website, on their own platforms, but we decided to go the Patreon route. So basically you would sign up on Patreon, you would sign up to our Patreon site, and then you would pay whatever it is a month. And then you have access to all of the material we've been putting up
from the beginning.
It's been over a year now, hasn't it? It's gotta be.
No, more probably.
Maybe more. I don't know. But there's lots of videos, audios, stuff like that. And as we grow too, because Lucia and I, like, we talk about that on the Patreon and on here, like Lou's studying all about the dimensions, the universe, all this, and she's sharing all of that information she's studying and learning about, and then she's channeling about it and teaching it there and sharing it there. And then I'm going into what I'm learning too, which will be the family constellations. And I'm trying to make it very like, what I really sat with that for a bit, and I said, okay, I need it to be information that's going to serve people in the sense of like they're healing. Like people are asking questions, you're answering them. And then on my end, I'm going more into the emotional stuff where I want it to be useful, like where they can understand themselves and heal themselves. So I'm going to try to go more into that energy on the Patreon.
That's good, because you do that.
That feels
and then
fulfilling to me.
Stuff. Like that's,
yeah.
We both do what we
and
love.
then together we come together and we channel together on different topics too, which I always find really interesting. And it's basically when we connect, because we don't really do a lot of video calls.
No,
not anymore. But yeah, if you guys are interested, I'll put that link in the show notes.
I've been also doing angelic healing for the group.
Yes.
Once a month.
Is that a monthly thing you've been doing? Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's great.
I'm going to do it till like the angelic realm makes me feel like till now. So I'm letting them decide how many months or how long I'm doing that, and we'll see. I don't know what the I'm letting them, it came to me and it came from them, and I'm letting them kind of steer me. So for now I'm doing it every month because I know that I'm supposed to.
No, that's perfect. And we'll continue to adapt and see what people need and all that. It just feels really nice. We're really thankful for everybody that's on there, for everybody here.
Like I love having
so happy we did that.
Where we where we get to share so much more. And it's, for me, it's been like me coming out of my comfort zone to channel more, to speak about more stuff. Like the other day I did the episode for the crop circles, and like I was getting the information. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Probably because you also feel comfortable and people are open to it.
I feel comfortable, because if you're not ready to hear that, you're not signed up for that.
Yeah. For sure. Awesome. Do you want to add anything else about the dimensions at all?
Where did I leave off? Oh, the planets and the dimensions of the beings. No, I think it's a good basis, and it's a lot of information for people to absorb if you're hearing it for the first time. I've had time.
Well, I'm sure we'll go deeper and deeper.
Yeah, there'll be more. But I think that kind of gives us an understanding a little bit more of like.
I'm laughing. Sorry, Lucia.
There's a fly around me.
There's a fly. I keep looking. I'm like, where's the fly now?
It's driving me crazy.
Nuts. Oh no. Did you get it?
No, I didn't get it.
Okay, just leave it.
He has the whole house. He can go anywhere he wants.
He likes you.
Yeah, but he has to be on me.
He's right behind you. I can see it.
You can see him?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'll let you live and be in peace. Just go around the house. Just don't come on me.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's wise for you, though.
No, yeah. So I'm happy. I'm happy with the information we shared today. I think that gives a good explanation. So our heads start believing,
opening up,
and believing and seeing this immense world that's around us. That because we're so sucked into the 3D matrix that's made us believe like we're nothing. We're just this piece of flesh, right? And I think that for me, the universal information that I've been learning about, it's obviously my thing. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. But it makes me really understand so many things about experiences in general. I'm like, oh, that's what this is, and that's what this is, and that's why this happened, and that's why this happens. And somehow, like, you start very slowly putting puzzle pieces together, and then you drop programs that no longer suit you. Oh, this religious program that limited me over here, I'm going to drop this. And this program I was told in school, I'm dropping all these programs, and I'm like expanding myself more with it. So for me, it's been like a blessing, all this information.
I love that. Yeah. And I love that you're sharing it here, because I think people need to hear it here and Patreon, wherever. Like we're in the expansion energy, not in the contraction.
We are. The contraction was like Lemuria to Atlantis was contraction. And then from Atlantis to now, we've been in expansion. So, yeah. I mean, think of it as like cycles as well, right? Those cycles.
Of course. Everything cycles.
Yeah.
Everything cycles. Healings in cycles, healings in waves.
I don't know,
expansion.
But sign me up to not be here for the next contraction. I'll tell you that. I'm out. I'm expanding and I'm getting out.
Yeah. All right. We're going to end the episode now, and we will be back next week with a new one. And we'll leave all the links in the show notes. And if you guys have any questions, any suggestions, or just want to reach out, all of our links will be in the show notes. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Love you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.